Alrighty, welcome back to the continuing saga of the creaky chair and the Silvertone restoration 4464. I think it's time to dig into my least favorite part of this. Now, I want to repaint this or give it a coat of zinc, green zinc primer at least, but I don't want to lose all of the stuff on the back. I'm not sure if they would stand up to post-it notes being stuck on there. I know I can't use painting tape, but I've taken photographs, high resolution photographs, real right up close to these, and I'm going to try to reproduce these. But that takes, you know, it's probably going to take me, who knows, 100 hours, 150 hours to do that. It's very, very, very time consuming to carefully clean all of these images up, add in the missing pieces, add in the missing text. It's extremely time consuming. And I'm thinking that would be a good project while I'm sitting over in Thailand this winter and I don't have access to my workbench and all my stuff here. I could sit there at the computer in between doing things. We have a few trips planned out when I get over there. Some places that I found on the internet I want to visit. Not this last trip, but the trip before. We went all over the country and hit a lot of the highlights, but there's a few more places I found that I want to visit. Places I've actually driven by over there and just never had the time or the opportunity to stop in. But anyway, I think I'm going to hold off. You know, I'll probably polish some of the stuff up, put a coat of paint on the transformer or something, but that's going to be, painting this or refinishing the chassis will be a project for when I get back, I think. The radio's functional, everything's working good. First thing I've got to do here is take this dial glass out, and I've got some O-ring hooks that I think I can get these little clips off with. I should be able to lift the little tabs up. Yeah, it's coming right off. These little O-ring hooks are perfect for the job. Bingo, that one's off. And, come on, there it goes, that one's off. And we'll put this someplace safe so the glass doesn't get broken. Yeah, those are in pretty good shape, should be fine. Next, I've got to pull the staples out of here. Oop. I'll put these in the jar of parts, but I do have new ones. I don't think I'll be reusing these. But yeah, I've got brand new ones. But for now, in the jar. I'm going to pull the staples out of the little cardboard speaker backing board. Oh, there's a new staple. I've got several rusty ones. Somebody put a staple in here at some point to help flatten out the cardboard, I guess. And these are little light shields because the cutouts in the wood, you know, you've got that, this stuff here goes, the speaker stops here, but you've got these cutouts and the dial light would shine through. So they've got little pieces of black paper stuck in there. I did that when I restored I had an Atwater Kent that I sold. I had since I was a kid, actually, and I sold that at one of the flea markets. Somebody was so excited when they said, "Oh, I've been looking for this model forever." I'd had it for years. I don't even recall where I got it. It was one of those radios I picked up when I was a kid. Come on. And when we get these pulled out and the grill cloth pulled off, I'm going to take this outside and use my favorite method now of removing the finish on these. It's to pour some lacquer thinner on it and then use a furniture scraper to get the varnish off. It's just so much faster and easier than using these modern paint strippers that don't do a damn thing.
Oh shit, here we go again.
It takes hours for the stuff to work, and you get this big gooey mess of slimy stuff. Now, somebody's marked A and G on here. I think it's more environmentally friendly to use the lacquer thinner. I use less of it, far less of it, and I have far less paper towels and far less cleanup to do when I'm done.
What are you doing in my swamp?
Than those new modern paint strippers that don't work. Oh, what did I just hear? I don't want to. Yeah. The top's got to be completely sanded down anyway. It had delaminated in places and it needs work, so I'm not too concerned about it. One more staple. Let's see if I can just get behind this, perhaps. There. Oh, those are glued right to the cloth. That one was in. Okay, come on. There we go. Coming off. And those of you who have been around watching me for a while know this is my least favorite part of the job. Is woodworking. I don't have the patience as my problem. Waiting around for finishes to dry and then sanding and refinishing and sanding, and I envy those who have the patience and the skills to do it well. Yeah! Okay, we'll try to find something close to that. We'll pull the last few strings out of here, take this outside, and then strip it down, and then do some sanding. But I'm not going to take the cameras outside with me. I don't want to get lacquer thinner on them. And, you know, once I'm elbow deep into this, I don't want to be touching the camera with my fingers with lacquer thinner on them. So we'll pick it up after I've got the finish off. Well, we've got all the old finish stripped off. Got to do a little bit of sanding. Very interesting grain pattern. Not at all that heavy stain or whatever it was. I imagine it, like a lot of these manufacturers, it was probably a stain mixed with a lacquer. But it's got a really nice grain in these two panels. I have no idea what kind of wood this is. One of you woodworkers out there can probably fill me in. It's real obvious, the two knobs that got used all the time. There's your on and volume, and there's your tuning. And many, many, many years of fingers grinding into the surface have left oil and dirt, so I'll have to do some sanding to clean that up. The sides came out pretty good. Those cleaned up real well. Some stain, lacquer thinner there, just staining when I was wiping it down, but both sides of that are pretty good. And the top's not too bad. This is an area where I glued it. I'll have to sand that down to get rid of the glue. And there's this chip here. I think I'm going to try to cut a piece of veneer and glue a piece of veneer in there rather than trying to use a wood filler. I'll just square this up a little bit, and I've got some leftover veneer. I'll put a little piece in there, fill it. And there's a little lacquer, I don't know, a little finish, a little lacquer thinner I missed when I was wiping everything down. But yeah, I'll let this sit overnight so that everything hardens up and it sands well without loading the sandpaper up. And then we'll get to laying some finish down on this. I might not even have to put any stain on these on these accents here. They soaked up the stain from here as I was wiping everything down with lacquer thinner and came out just about the color I want them. So I think if I mask them off, stain this, mask it off again, stain this, I'll be done. I'll be finished. It's interesting, this and the cabinet were the same color. So again, I'm assuming they used tinted lacquer on these when they did them. I'll see what it comes out like when I put the darker finish. Anyway, we'll do a little sanding, try to clean up the fingerprint areas here, get everything nice and smooth. Actually, this surface is pretty good. The grain's a little raised there, but this part of it's like glass. A little rough spot there, a little rough spot there. Other than that, it's really in nice shape. I won't bore you with the sanding. I'll just go ahead and do that off camera and bring you back when I've got some stain stuck on here. You've seen 100 people do stain work. And I just noticed a detail that I didn't spot when it had all the finish on it. This panel and this panel are two separate pieces, as are these. There's a split right here, and because of the way the grain matches so perfectly here, it's obvious they opened up two pieces of veneer and
Yummers.
You know, used them end to end. This is obviously cut from one piece and opened up.
What do you mean I'm not an expert?
Almost perfect. The grain is almost perfect. Everything, just the lines are almost perfect. There's just a slight, tiny misalignment on that line. And this one, just about everything lines up all the way around. They did a pretty good job on that.
I'm the king here, remember that!
Imagine this wasn't exactly a cheap radio. It was probably one of the more high-end models. Just the attention to detail they put into the cabinet. Alright, we put a little wood filler in here. There was a pretty good ding in this trim piece and a couple of these nail holes. The filler that the factory put in fell out. Wow! And up here where all the water damage had occurred, several of the nail holes, the filler had come out. And what I did here is I put a piece of veneer in here to fill this piece that was missing, glued that in. So we'll sand that down so everything's flat. I didn't have any veneer that was the right thickness. The stuff I had was way too thin. And so I took a piece of this plywood and I ran a razor knife down underneath, because this ply here is pretty close to what was on the cabinet. So I lifted off a piece of wood from this and shaped it to fit in there so it would be the right thickness. I was lucky that that matched fairly close. This has been sitting for a couple of hours now, so I'm going to sand this, get everything sanded down, blend it in, and probably put the first stain on here, and I'll stain the inside as well just to clean it up. It's been wiped out, but lacquer thinner splashed in there when I was cleaning it, so I'll just give that a light stain inside just to clean up the appearance on the interior. I usually do that anyway, and pick it up from there. I've done a lot of sanding, a lot of filling. I've filled in all the nail heads, pre-stained the the wood putty, and filled in all the nail holes, and did a lot of sanding, and it was glass smooth. but putting the stain on here has really raised the grain in a couple of places. So I've got some Aqua Coat, I think it's called, on order. It's a grain filler that dries clear, water-based. I picked that up from David Tipton. I stole that idea from him. And it looks like I got stain that was in there. It just ran out. Good grief. Let me take care of that. I thought I had rubbed it all off earlier. This has been sitting here for a couple of hours. At any rate, I had this all masked off, and I went over this tape several times to make sure it was well and truly pressed down, and the stain still capillary action, through capillary action, got underneath it and got onto this stripe. I think I'm just going to forge ahead. I'm going to mask it off again and stain this part of it with the lighter colored stain, which is the plan I had all along. When that's done, and after I put the Aqua Coat on, or the grain filler on here, and get everything sanded down, I'll give this thing a coat of clear, and then I'll mask this off again, and I'll probably spray paint this line with an off-white. Then a couple more coats of clear and sand it to get rid of any line that's left from the tape, because I don't see any way to stop the stain from wicking underneath or going through the grain to get into that piece in the middle here. I was real disappointed when I pulled the masking off and saw that. It just little spots all along there. It is what it is, and I'm just going to keep moving forward. Like I say, I've got a plan to deal with it. I'll get this side done. And in the meantime, while I'm in between sanding and coating and so on and so forth, boy, the steady cam thing on this sure moves around a lot after you finish moving the camera. I noticed on one of the videos, the video was doing this. It was rocking back and forth, and I think I'm gonna have to play with the settings on this camera and see if I can tame down that. I think it's part of the steady cam or anti-shake feature. It's probably set too sensitive. At any rate, I found some paint that pretty close in color to what the chassis was. This is the wheel that goes behind the dial assembly, and this was well and truly rusty. I wire brushed this all down, treated the rust, and sprayed it with that paint from Rust-Oleum. And it's called Self-Etching Zinc Green. And I think it's going to be a pretty good match for what was on there originally. I'm in the process now of removing the tuning capacitor. I got 3 wires left to unsolder. I've got the dial assembly set aside. Finish cleaning this up and take care of that. I'll polish up the IF cans. I've removed the filters temporarily. We'll put a little polish on those and then clear coat them and put them back in after this is painted. And of course I'll paint the transformer, and no, I'm not going to paint it red. Sorry, Buzz. But we'll paint this up. Well, I'm going to take the screws out, take the cap off, do some cleaning on that, and we'll paint all of this up. Put some new grommets in here. These are well and truly gone. Somebody made a valiant attempt at home making some, or home brewing some, and cut some pieces of rubber up, but we'll see if we can get some real grommets to go in there. Clean up the tuning cap. I'm going to remove this piece, clean it up, and paint it. I have some they say it's very low-tack artist. It's for artist work, artwork. Low-tack paper. It's paper, and I think I'll cut some stuff out. These are pretty well attached. I'll try it on the UL label first. I'll stick it on there and see if it comes off without damaging it. If it does, I'll cover these labels up. This one will have to have a little glue put underneath it. And we'll paint this chassis, get rid of the rust and paint the chassis. We'll wire brush it down, treat the rust, and then spray it with that green, this green. I think that'll look alright. So that's the update. Trying to do this, handle all the paint, move the camera around, it's too much. So we'll have to just keep giving you periodic updates. And this is that one, or one of them. Progress is being made. We have the inside of the cabinet all cleaned up. We put a coat of stain in there just to make it look good. Finished with the white stripes, or the white accent. That has that piece of wood in there that was very light colored that the stain soaked up. I found some off-white, more ivory than white. I don't know how it looks in the camera, but that came out pretty good. I'm happy with that. We're waiting on the aqua coat, I think it's called. David's laughing at me right now. When it was stained, it brought the grain out. It lifted, opened the grain up in a few places. So I'm going to give this radio the love it deserves and give it a nice finish. Oh, this set, this is the tuning assembly. We've derusted it and repainted it the same color it was originally. It was two different things, it was bare metal or plated metal here. This tuning shaft, this radio was used so much that it's worn. The hole it's in, egg-shaped, and the shaft itself is actually 5/1000ths of an inch smaller in diameter where it passes through the sheet metal here. Now there's not a lot of stress on this. The dial cord on this wasn't all that tight, but this radio is just tuned so much and used so much that it's worn the hole egg-shaped and worn a groove in the shaft. I got to thinking about that. This radio, 1936, 1937, I'm sure they were using this all during World War II. And because it has the shortwave bands on it, they were probably using this thing to listen to the war news from both Europe and the United States. This radio was probably in use virtually every day. And it shows just from the wear on this tuning shaft. We've got the capacitor all cleaned up. Boy, that came out like a brand new piece. That looks great. Really cleaned up nice. And the transformer is all cleaned up and painted. We'll get that masked off. We have to take this antenna coil off, this little trimmer cap, a few bits and bobs, and we'll de-rust or clean up the chassis and give that the same green primer color that this is, so that it looks nice and neat and clean. We'll polish up the IF cans, and we'll get these shined up, give them a coat of clear, put those back in. The tuning dial here, I'm going to go back and try another color, but I think the fact that this is down here, I made these, I vacillated back and forth between black and making them be an accent like that. I think I'm going to go with the gold, and that way it'll kind of go, same theme, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Got my do a little bit of final sanding after we've put the gel coat on here, give it some coats of clear, rub it down, and we'll be done. I'm hoping to have the chassis finished tonight. I've got grommets, brand new grommets on the way. Did I say that already? I'm forgetting. I'm repeating myself like my father probably. Brand new grommets coming. They'll be here today. A couple other items I ordered to finish this up. It's amazing how quickly you dump a ton of money into these sets.
You will go nowhere in life.
It certainly isn't for the profit. It's a work of love.
Yes, Daddy.
Okay, I'm going to shut up and get back to work here. some of my items came in. There's supposed to be more coming this afternoon. And we'll deal with that in just a minute. And my low-tack tape has arrived. This is a special tape that's sticky on the order of like a post-it note. In fact, to my feeling, it's slightly less. You stick it on something and it just lifts off fairly easy. So the plan, my plan, you know how those go. I already know all the dimensions of these labels, and I'm going to stretch some of this out in the laser, and I'm going to laser out some pieces that will fit over these labels so that I can put it on, quickly spray it, and then quickly remove them before it adheres too well to these labels. Fingers crossed.
Are you feeling it now?
But I do have to glue this one down, that edge and this edge. The rest of these appear to be well attached. Yeah, that's pretty firmly attached. There's no loose edges. Same with this. Oh, that bottom edge needs some attention. This one's firmly down. So I'm going to put some adhesive in here, work it behind with a toothpick, and while that's drying up, then I'll play with my grommet kit and see if we can come up with a combination to replace all the rubber pieces that would have gone bad on here. Now, actually I should do this with the hypodermic, but alright, I think I've got that alright. We don't want to rip the labels off when we remove the masking. We still in frame? Yeah, we're in frame. So that's stuck down. Where's my razor? Oh, this will work. I just want to make sure that I don't rip the labels off by accident here. I want to make sure that everything is held down.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
Get the glue up underneath there. Work a little more. I should do this with the hypodermic. Be a lot less messy. Alright, I think we got it. I think all the loose edges are down. And after that glue dries, it should be reasonably safe to put this low-tack tape over the top of it. I'll just go around one more time and make sure that there's no loose edges anywhere. Nope, that's firmly attached. It's firmly attached. Whoops. I could probably use something there. I do have these, I have taken photographs of these high resolution photographs as I mentioned earlier. And worst case scenario, I'll reproduce them, but if I can keep the originals, I'd rather do that. Yeah. It's only original once, as they say. Work some underneath And by pushing down on it, I'm squeezing it up under any other areas it might be loose.
We do not care.
Yeah, that's sticking down nicely. Okay, while that glue is setting up, I'm going to play with my grommet kit here. There weren't any. I went to Granger, I went to several of the industrial sites, I went on the internet. I couldn't find the exact proper grommet for this. It's about a 7/16 hole, and it's got a 3/16 inch diameter in the middle. The screw, it's a shoulder bolt, shoulder screw. It goes through the center with a large washer. This being 3/16 of an inch in diameter. All the 3/16 stuff, or excuse me, all the 7/16 diameter has a great big hole in it. However, these grommets fit inside of that one, and that has the right size hole for the screw.
That was easy.
And the washer will hold the whole thing together. So I think that's going to be an okay solution. So let's push this one in and get it seated. Get it all the way in here. Alright, that's in there. Then this should press in here. And give me my 3/16 inch diameter. And then this will fit through the middle of that. And there we have it. There's my new grommet for my tuning capacitor. So that problem is solved. Takes care of that. I think that's a fairly elegant solution. So I'm going to continue on with that. I'm going to set up the laser, cut some pieces to mask those off, clean up the rust, and get this stuff painted. I won't bore you with that whole process. You've seen people paint before. It'll be a matter, I'll polish these up, I'll restamp the numbers on them so they have their part numbers on them still. I have a rubber stamp set, and I'll just, once these are polished up, I'll restamp the numbers. This has the part number right on it, 14191. That's its part number. I looked at the parts list that's inside the cabinet. Oh, here's something that caught my eye. It's fairly usual to see transformers marked for 50 cycles or 60 cycles, 50 hertz, 60 hertz, depending on, you know, where you are. Australia 50 hertz, and Europe 50 hertz. Japan and the US and a few other places are 60 hertz. They list a part number for this radio. They list an alternate power transformer, 25 hertz. And that set me back for a minute. I said, I hadn't heard of anybody using 25 hertz before, so I did a quick look on the interwebs. And it seems that when Niagara Falls in New York put in their first power station, that power grid was 25 hertz. That and part of Canada ran on 25 hertz for a couple of decades. And they said it was terrible for lighting because there was so much flicker due to the low frequency. But they also said that the last power station in Niagara running 25 hertz was decommissioned in like 1960. So somebody was still using 25 hertz for a long time. Evidently industrial motors and so on and so forth in that area, maybe factories, you know, that had invested heavily in all that machinery, just kept running the stuff because it worked. But yeah, they offered this radio and a 25 hertz version for people who lived in that area. So if you get one of these sets and it hasn't been run for a while, make sure it's not a setup for 25 hertz. Does this even say on the back? This says AC 50 to 60 cycles, so check the label. If yours says 25 hertz, don't plug it in. You'll have to find yourself a 60 cycle or 60 hertz transformer for it. Just thought I'd pass that along. And I just did a quick check online. It appears Amtrak is still, as of today, using 25 hertz power to power their electrified rail. All of this went into use early in the day when Edison and Tesla were fighting over AC versus DC. Back then, 25 hertz AC was what they used, and I guess there was so much money invested in Amtrak on all the lines and all the converters and everything else that they use on the system. They're still running it. That was a surprise. And we're ready to paint this thing. I've got a bunch of sacrificial screws in here. Whenever I get a kit like a curtain or draperies or whatever, they always give you cheap hardware. I hang on to it for stuff just like this. Just use it to fill holes so you don't get spray going through the holes. These come from a paint shop. They're used to protect captive hardware when stuff's being painted. And when panels used to come in when we were working on equipment, I would just take these. The guys would take them off and throw them away, but I would grab them, throw them in a jar, and I said, those are going to be handy for painting and for protecting screw threads and so on and so forth. So I got a bunch of those. I'm not worried about the control nuts. I've got a massive can, bigger than this, full of them, that I bought at some flea market somewhere. I don't remember where. I've had them for years, and they're handy for stuff like this. You just go ahead and paint and then spin the one off that's got paint on it and put a fresh new one on there. And saves a lot of time, saves a lot of aggravation. You don't have to take all the controls out. Last thing I've got to do is get into the laser. I'm going to be using this special low-tack tape, and this stuff, when it's on paper, I don't have anything. Oh, here we go. When you put it on paper, it just comes right off like a post-it note. It's extremely low tack, so we'll use that when I cut those out in the laser. I'll use that to protect the labels on the back. I'll stick them on, paint it, and pull them right off before the adhesive has time to really, to stick. So, I'm going to get with it. And I have a gripe. There are many people today, I won't show you the name, this is one of the so-called dial cords that's for sale on the internet. True dial cord, and I don't have much left. This is the real deal. This is 28 thousandths of an inch in diameter. And you notice I'm at the end of travel on the capacitor, and I have a little bit of room left. And when I go down to the other end, the capacitor is fully closed. I still have a little bit of room left. It's not binding. And this has the property of being, even if it was, if I can force it, let's see if I can get it to be off. This won't climb up on itself. Yeah, I can't get it to slide. If this comes to the end, there's a little ramp on each end. This true dial cord will slide down that ramp, and it won't bind, it won't overlap. Again, I've hit the end there, and coming back, I hit the end there. The cord that was on here, while very, very strong, before I got to the end, would be folding over on itself because of its extra thickness. This is over 40 thousandths of an inch in diameter. It folds over on itself and would bind. It wouldn't let you really reach the end without forcing it. This stuff is advertised as being 28 thousandths. It isn't. It's 31 thousandths. It may not seem like a big deal, but it's a big enough difference that when you get to the end, you don't have any clearance on the ends. I have tried several sources, and what I think I'm going to do is hit one of the tackle shops and find one of the woven fishing lines that's truly 28 thousandths. Monofilament really doesn't work. But please, if you're selling this dial cord, try to find a source of true dial cord diameter dial cord. Let me zoom back out here. Turn on the calipers. Get a strand of this. 28 thousandths. Okay. This is touted as being 28 thousandths. It's 31 and a half, almost 32 thousandths. Well, no, it's 32 and a half thousandths. That is not dial cord. And what was on here, 45 and a half thousandths. This might work in some applications, but here I have some left over from another spool of actual dial cord. 21 thousandths. That's what's needed to make real dial cord, so that, you know, these sets were designed to have a specific diameter cord, so when you get to the end it doesn't overlap. There's some room left on the spindle. Okay, gripe finished.